All right, welcome back to Salt City Counseling, y'all. Once again, my name's Scott Carter. I'm a licensed therapist here in the beautiful and hot, smoky state of Utah. I hope your summer is going better than mine is. At least we're about halfway through July. I feel like we're almost halfway through summer. Um, Come on, fall. Summer's overrated, man. If you're new here, I hope you'll subscribe. This is another relationship video. I talked about this in my previous relationship video. In this video, I'm going to talk about having deliberate intentions for your relationship. What does this mean? Why it's important and why you should follow this pattern and why it's going to help you be in a successful and positive relationship. Okay? And deliberate intentions. What does that mean? Frankly, I don't find a lot of therapists talk about this. I talk about this stuff with my clients, like where do you want to go? What do you intend to happen with work, your relationship, yourself, whatever, right? If people say I have anxiety, okay, what is your intention for your anxiety, right? Huh? What are you talking about? People have a tendency to focus on what's going wrong instead of focus on what they want to go right and what they intend, what changes they intend there to be, right? Or to have. And so I'm gonna talk in this video about using this idea of having deliberate intentions and maybe help create some awareness about how maybe just lots of habits, bad relationship habits. Frankly, I just find a lot of people these days, their lives are in a lot of autopilot. Their minds are so undisciplined. And I talked about this in my last relationship video, but I feel like these things and the internet do all of our thinking for us now. And I think it's important to start thinking for ourselves, right? And I notice that a lot of people, they doubt themselves so much. And they haven't learned to trust themselves. And I feel like there's sort of that lack of discipline that comes with that. So I'm going to get into being deliberately intentional about your relationship and elements within your relationship. In this video, let me get some housekeeping out of the way first. If you're new here, I hope that you'll subscribe. Help my channel grow. You know what to do. Like it, share it, all that good stuff. If you have a viewer question, you can send it to me, scottc at saltcitycounseling.com. All of the links are in the description below for everything. And let's see. Hit the tip jar, please, if you like my content. Cash App, Venmo, PayPal. Every little bit helps. And to everybody that has sent me a tip on those platforms, thank you so much. I super appreciate it. Helps me keep this content going for you. Okay, so I think that's going to do it for the housekeeping for now. So let's talk about being deliberately intentional with your relationship, right? Because it seems like people go into things like marriage, right? Or just even like a partnership. And it's like they're just winging it. They might go into a profession and they're just winging it. And they don't stop and sit down and start talking about or thinking about or having discussions about like, hey, what is our plan for this? What is our plan for that, right? And so when I say be deliberate and intentional to people, like in therapy, right? When I'm working with clients, they usually give me that deer in the headlights look, like, what are you talking about? And I remember having this conversation with one individual where it was like, what are your intentions for your relationship? And the answer was, I have never thought about that in my entire life. I mean, this person is like well into their mid 40s and pushing late 40s. And the response was, I have never once in my life even considered that. And even couldn't, like, was just drawing a blank. Like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, do you want to be able to be very vulnerable with each other? And to not be afraid of being honest with each other? Do you want positive communication? Do you want to be super, super close and connected? Do you want this person to be the closest friend you ever had? Do you want there to be unconditional positive regard, unconditional love? Because frankly, our love has become kind of conditional these days, and I will probably mention this in all of my relationship geared videos. I just like dating has become like, and relationships have become such a turnoff for me personally. just because the way that people approach relationships these days is so adversarial. And I talk about this in my relationship videos. People are in these competitive style relationships where the resentment just drives them apart. It's fueled by control and passive aggressiveness and one-upping and got you, right? The got you approach. And people get so embroiled in these patterns that honestly, I don't think they usually realize how, I'm just going to say, completely insane it really is to just stay in this holding pattern. And I've noticed with a lot of people too, getting them to do something different in their relationship, it's very difficult. They've been doing exactly what doesn't work, maybe sometimes for years and years and years and years and years. And it's like, well, why don't you try this? Huh? Why would I do that? Well, because what you're doing is clearly not working, right? And so when it comes to deliberate intentions, okay, now it's important to go through the thinking process. And when I ask people these questions, typically, they have a hard time giving me answers because they've never taught their brain how to do it. Like I said, our brains have become really undisciplined. Our thinking has become very, very undisciplined. I find that they overthink everything because they're undisciplined. Everybody's mind has become undisciplined. Believe me, I was in that category too. I really was. Like a year and a half ago, I was definitely in that category. 2 years ago, I was definitely in that category. The thing that has saved my bacon and brought things more so and kind of in line and to focus is meditation. Like, I use this metaphor all the time. You're going to hear it a lot from me. Like, the overthinking is sort of like this big, thick rope that's just coming unraveled and frayed, like, till there's like hundreds even of frayed ends, right? And the more undisciplined we are in our thinking, and the more we allow our devices to do our thinking for us. Oh, tell me where I parked, because I didn't take a moment to even remember where I parked, right? The more frayed that rope becomes. And so meditation over the last year and change for me has helped kind of wind that rope back together. And okay, we're good. And I'm much more deliberately intentional in my life than I ever have been, and it's great. It's so positive and so effective and so powerful for me. And so using this skill in your relationship, okay, is going to be really important, right? I want to have good communication. Okay? Now, some of the questions to ask yourself. What is my method of creating positive, safe, and healthy communication? And when I ask people that question too, they usually look at me with deer in the headlights. Let me give you some tips, okay? If your deliberate intention is to have positive communication, what you're going to want to do, right, is to set rules for yourself. I will listen to my partner because I want to be listened to, right? And so what this exercise is not, okay, go back to my last video about personal accountability and personal responsibility. Like, if your communication in your relationship sucks and you want it to get better, it's on you to put the work in to make it better, not on you to yell at your partner to make it better. Because frankly, that's what most people do. Like, our communication sucks, you better work on it. Yeah, so do you. Right? No, there's no such thing as a failed relationship where one person is 100% of the problem and the other person is 0% of the problem. It always takes two, right? Try to think of it this way, right? I find this metaphor to be really, really fitting for a lot of aspects for life. You can't, like, you have a radio, like when it comes to a radio signal, there is no signal without a radio. There's always a sender and always a receiver, right? And so if something bad is coming across the radio, it's partially because the radio is dialed into that station. So even if you feel like you're the receiver, you're still the receiver, right? It just always takes two. It always takes two. So take some personal accountability. So if you feel like, yeah, our communication sucks and I have a deliberate intention to improve that communication, well, I'm going to listen better. I want them to listen to me. I'm going to listen to them. I will keep my temper in check. I will not make assumptions, okay? I should probably do a whole separate video on things that destroy communication in relationships, that just completely undermine it. And those are just a couple, right? Making assumptions, taking things personally, making everything about you, okay? And people do this without realizing that they do this, again, because their minds are undisciplined. And so to me, you want to make every aspect of your life better, then learn how to discipline your mind. It's actually simple. And I tell all my clients, meditate, man. It will help you get where you want to go. And it's interesting how many say, I have no idea how to do that. I'm going to show you real quick, okay? Sit up straight, keep your back straight, find your breath, just notice it, in and out. Rest your eyes, rest your focus on a single point. And do that for like 10 seconds and let your mind just be focused and clear for 10 seconds. There, you just meditated for 10 seconds. Tomorrow, do it for 15 seconds. And then the day after that, do it for a minute. And so on, and etc. Okay? So, be deliberately intentional about your relationship. I want to be really close to this person. I want to have a high level of trust. Okay? So, you don't create trust by accusing and blaming and being jealous. Okay? And I know a lot of people will be like, well, I can't seem to help my mind from being jealous. It's just intrusive. The jealousy is intrusive. The mistrust is intrusive. Okay, that's why you have to discipline your mind. It just kind of goes back to that. So, being deliberately intentional about your relationship. My last note on this is it takes work. Like, okay, I was gonna end this video, but I'm gonna insert this where I find that if people do have a bad habit for years and years and years, maybe decades, right? And it's like, okay, let's do this to break that habit. And they do it like 3 times and they go, what gives? Why isn't it better? And it's like, man, you don't spend, for example, decades getting really out of shape and super overweight and really obese and get really bad health and do some push-ups and some walking for a week and then expect it to be just poof, being a bodybuilder or something. It takes work, it takes effort, it takes dedication, right? And people always want to know, well, how do I do and how long is it going to take? Why does that matter? Just do it and the results will come, okay? So feel free to ask questions, insert your comments. Appreciate your viewership. We'll see you in the next one.